If you have any questions, we are here to help as best we can.
So I've had two issues, one with the TopSap notebook and the other one with the Tropo notebook. But I already asked the question in Slack. I'm just waiting for someone to answer them. But it's like when I'm trying to use my own data, I can run several steps and it works fine. And eventually I hit something that doesn't work. And then I don't know exactly what to do from there.
Well, why don't you share your screen if you can?
All right. So which one do you like, the TOPS one or the Tropo one?
I think let's start with TOPS, and then we can move to Tropo.
Okay. So is that large enough?
Plenty.
So, okay, I'm doing this TOPS thing with a couple of frames. And so I am using all three swaths and everything looks fine. It's going through all the bursts of all three swaths. So it looks like it's working everywhere. And I'm gonna just go up to the step where it hits an error.
Sounds very ambitious.
Well, the thing is that eventually I'm going to be doing time series with large interferograms. So I might as well learn how to do this and debug this.
I like
right
your attitude.
With one, and then we'll see how it goes with the rest of them. Okay, so everything is looking good. I mean, on top of it, these are like very problematic interferograms, I should say, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm not doing that ionospheric phase screen at this moment on this notebook. And so I get to this part where we have this, oh no, this one is okay. This is this is the one that goes wrong. It went wrong, so I tried to go step by step to find out which step was giving me problems. So this is here. So it's this step burstive FG. And it wants to open something called pickle/ion, which for some reason doesn't exist inside my pickle folder. So I don't know if this had to be created at some point in some step and there was an error that I didn't see or what.
Well, can you open the little triangle for the ionosphere? Maybe you have to run a step that says you're not running the ionosphere. It's possible.
Also, I think it would be a good idea for Beatrice to check her TopSap XML to see that she also referring that step to be skipped there as well.
Oh, okay.
All right. So here for the ionospheric Facescreen, it just says that we're skipping it. And the step, it's called ion. That's what I thought it was weird that it was trying to find something called ion later. So let me see the XML file, the configuration file. So I do not have anything ionosphere related on. So I don't know.
So you ran the step that says do step ion?
No, I did not.
It is my guess that's because I saw some question on Slack.
Yeah.
And yeah, and even you don't apply some method, for example, ionosphere correction, but you still have to do that step, like what here has shown in I don't remember strip map or tops up in crop, because he didn't use any bounding box, so crop normally does nothing, but he still have to run this step. So I think some people have the same issue with that.
Okay.
It is here, steps doesn't mean, step don't mean that you apply that. So even if you don't apply, but you still have to run this step, because in ICE, the next step may use products from previous step. So even if you don't apply that one, but you still have to run that. So that some products may be issue.
Let me try to run. Anyway, since it won't find the line that says to do it, it will tell me I won't do it.
That's the point. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier. It may just.
All right. So there it is.
There it is. And now the next step should find some sort of a ION file that says you didn't run ION.
All right. So let me just do the one so that I don't get errors from many steps after that. Okay, so now it's fine with the, oh yeah, it's doing it. Oh my God, such a silly thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not silly.
It looks like it's doing something and it's not angry at not finding anything. Okay, so change of notebook. For the tropo thing, I am doing fine, I think, with all the previous steps. I was able to download the files and everything, but when I run this step, that's one of those steps that you need to do if you didn't download the things as SLCs, but they need all this processing for the GACOS correction. When I run this step, it's telling me that it doesn't find these files or something, but those files are there. I mean, I have listed the directory and I can see them, and then I don't know what this error is coming from.
Maybe you're in the wrong working directory. Can you?
I try that.
And you tried that, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so what directory are you in?
I should be in, let me remember, because I have been running several things at the same time.
Yeah.
So
that can be dangerous.
Yeah. So let me see. So I need to be, okay, I need to be on this one, on Troposphere.
Mm-hmm.
So unless something before this got me out of that directory, let's try to do this. So
yeah, looks like you're down one level. So you need to.
How does that happen? Because that's, how did I get there and get out?
Could be that there's a bug. This notebook changed quite a bit over the last couple of days.
This thing understands the CD thing, right? With
no,
I need the OS something.
os.chdr. And then open paren. I think you can just do double quote ...
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, with enclosed in parentheses. Yeah. I think.
Oh, come on.
It's so
helping
helpful.
me and I am doing things the wrong way. All right.
I think
Try
it
that.
the explanation, I think, or
Oh yeah, this one
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
get.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
That
many
worked.
silly things. That works. Okay. So everything is good now. Thank you very much.
No problem.
I'll stop sharing if I find, okay, there it is. Thank you.
No problem. Let's see. There's some stuff going on in the chat from Alex. Morning, Alex.
Hi, good morning. Let's see. Yeah, I had some questions yesterday morning on the DEM issue, and I don't understand / didn't take good enough notes on what these two parts of the XML are, and I was trying to figure out which DEM file should go in which one.
Okay. Which should go in the XML and which line? So DEM file path to your DEM and geocode DEM file. I guess the DEM file, which is just DEM file, is for you processing the interferogram, and the geocoding one could be different.
Yeah, so it's probably the VRT in the first one, and then comment out the geocode one. Is that what?
You
Well,
can
what do you-
use VRT for both.
For both?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what are the differences? How is it being used?
As Paul was explaining, DEM file is for only processing interferograms, and geocode DEM file is geocoding the interferograms. So you may want to do your geocoding with a different DEM, so that gives you an option to change that. But if you're
Okay.
going to use the same DEM for both processing and geocoding, then you can just give the same DEM.
Or you don't even have to do, if you want to use the same one, I believe that if you just specify the processing DEM, it will just use that same DEM for the geocode if you don't specify that, if that makes
Defaults
sense.
to, yeah,
So that then it's just redundant.
that makes, thank you. When do you use a different geocoding?
Well, let's say that you have a processing DM with a higher resolution, 1 arcsecond or so, 30 meters, but then you want to geocode with a coarser resolution, 90 meters, to have a smaller image. That's what generally we do. That's
You
one example.
remember the exercise yesterday that was failing with downsampling the DEM. That the purpose of that set of steps was to illustrate that you might want a coarser DEM for the last step of geocoding.
Okay, and then my course DEM file would conceivably go in the geocode. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you.
So the I don't know if any of the people on know the answer to this, but Alex also brought up in the TopSap notebook yesterday, it looked like there was a line missing in the instructions. Maybe Alex, can you bring up that cell?
Sure can. Let me scroll on down to it. Sorry, I should have done this before I shared my screen.
No worries.
It's close to here. Here we go. Okay, so it will be in chapter 310 and under option 2 right here. So there are instructions on, it's related to finding the DEM and downsampling, and shows you how to do the help commands for the various scripts. And okay, so it is right here, just above 311. It says that, do help to see what your input options are. And it says now run the command. It's maybe if I'm not zoomed in, but there's a colon there, and it looks like someone probably meant to either add in another cell with the command, or maybe just kind of, put it in quotes. Presumably the command is something like fix image xml.py dash input file equals something.
Yeah, so it would be the DM minus input file, the DM, without an XML, without a VRT, and then the -f that should update the path. So the only thing which that fix image XML does, it opens up the XML file and replaces the file name with the file name and the full path.
Mhm. Okay, so then it would be something like input equals my file path. Is
Yeah,
that
you can
easy?
just do the -i and then the input file name, or do you do the dash and do it the long way? That's okay too. And then you do again a space -f, and that should be sufficient.
File name. And you said it was the VRT? I'm sorry.
No, you would not specify the VRT nor the XML. It would be the
Oh.
NV file base name, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. It's a .dem, no other extensions then. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, and yeah, whenever you fill in the file name, do it without the quotes.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah, and the main
obvious with
idea for this program is that if you would move it from one server to another server, or you move your directory around, then there is some issue sometimes in ISCE about relative paths and absolute paths. So, or you give this DM to somebody else, then with this command they can fix it.
so fixes some hard-coded absolute paths or relative paths.
Yeah, in the XML file.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, that's right here above 311 in the TOPS app notebook, if you need that, and I'll stop sharing. Thanks.
I'll fix that on the repository and then people can pull it and have that complete. Great. It's good to have the authors on. All right, any other questions?
I just want to recall Alex's question here. She may forget. Alex has a question on Slack. On some image, when we display, it is mirror via latitude and longitude. And I know that it is very normal, but I don't understand why. So can you please explain why it is mirror, and when it is mirror via longitude, and when it is mirror in latitude?
Is it a descending track?
I'm not really sure when the descending. Are you using descending, Alex?
Yes, it was. And it's in the Philippines, so Southern Hemisphere, if that is also a factor.
These are interferograms, right, that you're talking about?
Yes.
And it is in not in geocode, in radar code.
It's in radar coordinates.
Yes.
Yes, actually, let's go back to screen share.
So if you imagine, yeah.
This is just a quick screen grab from the Earth Data website. So it's hard to see, but this is the Philippines, and this is, north is up, east is to the right. And then this is a screen grab from one of the outputs in the TOPS app, and you can kind of see the little peninsula here it's mirrored about the longitude.
Why would you look in the Philippines with C-band?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was a mistake. It did not turn out well for me.
It will be very noisy.
Yeah, it was a disappointing.
Anyway,
a lot of learning happening this week.
To answer your question, so this is a descending track, and Sentinel looks to the right of the velocity vector, right? So the ground track for this frame is off on the right side of this, the east side of this image, right? And you're looking towards the west, right? So where would the near range in your image be? Can you point to, on that orange frame, where would the near range be and where would the far range be, given what I just described?
Okay, so it is a descending track and it's pointing to the west. So it's coming like so. Is that true? The satellite's moving this way?
Right.
Right. So then near range should be here, right?
Right, and where would the far range be?
It's the far range should be
Exactly.
the
So
other
now-
side. So it's
So now go to your black and
Yeah,
white image. and
near range.
point
Oh,
to
look,
the near
x-axis
range.
is smaller than
Yeah,
x-axis. Yeah,
that makes sense.
it does. Thanks. Yeah.
Sure.
That is.
That's actually a key insight that a lot of people who just starting this don't really fully appreciate.
So in extension, could you go and interpret it for ascending data and tell us what is different there, if you would have done it?
Oh yeah, I can go look and see if find the ascending pass, but it should be curved. Oh wait, so it's going to ascend up this way.
So
But it's always looking to the right though, so it's got to be on this side, right?
Yeah, so it would be, the ascending path is also the one which goes in the other direction. It goes from north west, so the diagonal one from northwest southeast.
You see the two paths there,
Yeah.
the two outlines of the blue.
Yeah, you got the blue outlines too, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not the red one, not that orientation, that's the descending. You want to have the other orientation, that's the ascending.
Got it. Okay, so it's going to be
Well,
skewed.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
the one behind your zoom in button. That is one of
Yeah.
the yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. So if you would interpret this now in near range, far range, and early and late azimuth, any idea what would be if there is any dimension swapped? If you would look from radar coordinate to geo coordinates here.
Yeah, it should do it kind of in this map view then, right? If it's the ascending one will be on this side. Is that true? It'll go from south to north,
That's
right?
right.
So then the near field is going to be here. So your low x-axis pixels will be here. Then your far x-axis pixels are here.
Right, but there's
that
another
correct?
thing. David's trying to get at another aspect of it.
Yes.
Keep going. What about the other dimension?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So then it's going to be flipped over the latitude axis then.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's correct.
So the moral of the story is only look at things in the northern hemisphere that are ascending.
No, the moral is to, if you want to look at it in geographic coordinates, you should probably geocode it.
I know how to do that now.
And after about the 20th interferogram, you won't need to, because your mind will just flip everything for you.
Perfect. Still, got to work on those spatial reasoning skills. Great. Thank you so much. I can stop sharing it. Oh, Louis, and this was it. You had that part of the question on this too. Is it okay to stop share?
Yeah, it is okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I think Muhammad, he need a question. He raised his hand.
Good evening. No, I'm good. I'm good. No questions. It was about the troposphere notebook, and I just wanted to make the correction, so it's all good now.
The directory correction?
Yes.
Oh, so that is actually a bug in the notebook. It puts you in the wrong directory and then tries to. That wasn't just, who was that?
I think it doesn't, it has this pair of cells where it tells you that if the download didn't work, then you should do that. And I probably by mistake run one of those. And I think that's the one that puts you inside the download GACOS directory. So if you skip the whole troubles with download thing and you just go straight to the next step, I think you will be in the correct directory.
I see.
But it doesn't hurt to put the change directory right there. I mean, if you're already there, then you'll stay there. And if you're not, you make sure you go to the right one.
Well, I checked it both of the ways yesterday. I just downloaded my own data from the Gecko website, and then I was not executing this file that is related to the downloaded data already, but still it was not working. So there's not issue. I think there's not the issue about the downloaded data we get.
So if you there's two options of downloading data at Geicos. One is to download in the NV format, where they provide the good old ROIPAC RSC file with it, and the other format which they provide is downloading TIFF file. So if you, I think by default, I think TIFF is the download option on the website. So if you select that, then you don't need to run all the steps of the notebook. So there is a note. I think it's in a red cell, which says if you go for TIFF, you need to skip these cells from running, because one of the key steps which that notebook does is it makes a corresponding or a GDAL compatible file. So it takes the ROIPAC RSC file and makes a VRT file out of that. So GDAL recognizes it. With a TIFF file, if you do a GDAL info on that file, it already recognizes it's geocoded. So you don't need to do that step. And that would require a change in the code. And the exact commands which you need to run for that is provided in that red cell.
Ah, cool. Good to know. I think this was one of the big confusion I had yesterday. Like, we are already downloading the TIFF files from the Gecko, and then why we do conversions for it? So it makes sense now.
Okay.
And yeah, cool. Thank you.
Welcome.
So let's just look at I'm going to look at the notebook myself, see what the confusion is. Maybe it's even though it's big, red, and bold, it's not clear. Because two people made the mistake.
Sure.
But we don't. If there are other questions, we can move on.
I think there was another raised hand.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I have performed exercise yesterday about the TOPS mode, so it would be better if I can show you some results.
Please.
So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Well, this was the problem yesterday, that I processed only one swath, and after that I make the both swaths interferometric 2 and 3. So now I get the results.
Looks good.
Yeah. The now question is that I have performed other exercise of tropospheric, this one. And it's working well, but now I want to perform this tropospheric corrections on this data that I have processed yesterday. Is it possible to add some in this using this notebook, that because I haven't changed any data files for this one, for the previous exercise. Like for this one, I have downloaded and processed the data in the same folder where we have performed exercises. But now I don't know that how to give that files to perform this exercise on that.
So really to apply the tropospheric correction, the only thing which you need is a geocoded unwrapped file, I believe. So if you go back to your TOPS exercise, once you have geocoded the data, has been a while, but I think it goes into the merge folder, and then they get files with extension .geo added to it. You would just look at the unwrapped file. You would get the NV file for it. So that's the filtered unwrapped.geo, I believe. And then you would have the metadata for it. So the .xml and the .vrt. I believe those are the only ones which you need. If you would just copy them and drop them here in this notebook and overwrite the other files, then you could just go to the Geicos website and download the Geicos data for that interferogram specific over that region, and it should work.
Yeah, I checked that one. If I give the north-south components and the time, then it downloaded files in the form of grid or GeoTIFF format. But I'm not sure how to add this data to here. I mean, in this file, and so how to give access of my data to this file, because I can see some of the files here, but I'm not sure about how to give.
I think what David was saying is these you put the geo files from your processing in this folder, and then it should recognize the geometry. And is that what you're saying, David?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So I have to make a new folder with different name and then added files there.
So if you go look at the Explorer view, so go to the Jupyter browser, or how do you call that? The one where you can see all the directory structure.
Probably one to the left, the tab to the left on your browser, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if you look under, I think it's under InSAR, into that folder, put your, and then merged. That's the same structure which you see in your tops in the other one. You would just need to replace those filled topo underscore .unwrap.geo files. You would replace that with your new interferogram. You would actually do the same for the los.rdr.geo. Replace that with your new image and the phase sigma, which is the filtered coherence. If you just replace that with your new data set, then the notebook will recognize it. And then let's ignore the other files because they are created. Now, if you go back a level up, okay, and another one, sorry. And now if you go and look under the Geico's downloads, so when you went to the Geico's website and ordered those products, you should put them in here, which will have a date.ztd format. So you would dump them in here and you would update the notebook to reflect to the right date pairing.
Okay.
And then it should work. But yeah, just be careful that you don't restage the data, then it will just go and download the data again, etc. from the AWS bucket. And just make sure that the paths or let's say the file names are correct, because your new TopSap interferogram, you have done a new date combination. So you just want to fix that. If you've downloaded the TIFF files, then you should also follow the guidelines in the notebooks and perhaps more carefully read the red cells on what to do for the TIFF files.
Yeah, I will try it. Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome. I think for next year, Paul, we will just try to do it more on the fly, that it recognizes if it's a TIFF or an RRC file, but we were running a little bit out of time. So we just kind of sit, read the cell and do that. But I do agree that it could be a little bit more user-friendly for the experience.
Well, also, if you were actually teaching it instead of having it be homework, it would probably be easier to convey this stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here, I'm just looking at the note on data type in red. This notebook is pre-staged backup data in binary grid format if executed in TIFF format. First pre-processing step should be skipped. Yeah. Which is the first pre-processing step? That's the submit Geico's request.
Yeah, so there is another, so the Geico's request, that's fine. But if you then go to the processing itself, there is another red cell, I believe, which tells you. But yeah, I think yeah, we could have done it a little bit more obvious.
Yeah, I think that needs a little clarity. Okay, that's good. Good to know. Yeah, and again, we didn't really teach it, so people have to sort of read between the lines, interpret if it's a homework problem. All right. Any other questions? This is good. These office hours are good for both the students and for the instructors.
I see a question in the chat about the pointing vectors. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks. So I ran the geophysical model tutorial and I got Ford model. It seems there is a problem with sign in looking directions. So I went back to the previous notebook, process code tree output, and I changed these two signs, and then it seems working now. And my question is, why yesterday when Gareth ran this notebook, why I needed these negative signs, and now why I don't need it? That's my question.
So maybe you could, I don't fully understand the issue with the signs. Go back to your model fit and explain once more what the sign issue is.
Okay, that's a corrected result. Sorry.
You might not be sharing your screen. It was there and gone. I don't know if anyone else has that problem.
Yeah, I don't see anything right now.
Can you see now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the previous result I got.
Oh, so the data and the model have the opposite sign. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yes. So I went back to the previous notebook here and I get rid of these two negative signs. Then I got the new result, which is a lot better now. I'm wondering why I had to get rid of these two negative signs.
Probably you shouldn't have. There's probably some other issue.
Is it related to ascending and descending, or maybe different data set?
Probably. So what data are you modeling here?
I'm using Sentinel-1 descending for Ridgecrest coseismic signal.
Okay, and there was a cell someplace in this notebook I remember Gareth playing with that specified the look vector.
I believe this cell is.
This was not the cell that I remember. Maybe that was a different notebook. But anyway, you need to specify the right look vector for a descending track.
So every time I use ascending or descending, I need to change the sign here.
Right. So as we were just describing, ascending and descending, you would be pointing in a different direction geographically. So whether changing that negative sign is the only thing you have to do. Anybody have familiarity with this leaf, what leaf theta s and leaf phi s is?
So you said it's an incident angle from the ground, and azimuth is the angle from the east counterclockwise.
Leaf.
Well, I think the leaf doesn't really matter. It's just a variable name.
All right. So incidence angle theta s, if it's ascending versus descending, I suppose it would, depending on the convention, it would change sign. Theta s is the azimuth angle. I have to draw the picture.
Yeah, so I don't think theta would really change in any of the equations because that's kind of the same for different geometries.
Well, it depends on if there's an ascending, descending. I think it depends on how you define these things. But if the angle, so theta is the incidence angle. It could be that the convention, if it would be to change the sign of theta, but it's just cosines of that anyway. I think you might have arbitrarily changed the signs to get it to work, but I'm not sure you made the right changes. Somehow the theta and phi should change, and then the sign should be applied appropriately. But I think I have to draw a picture. I think in a previous notebook, Gareth had explicit definitions of the look vectors for ascending and descending. Maybe it was the very first one for the Okada.
Yeah, I think Okada LOS components notebook.
Yes, in here yesterday, Gareth played around with the size of azimuth, and he changed from minus 10 to 60 and minus 100, and it is here. I think he played around with this one with phi equal minus 100.
Yeah.
But finally, he came back to phi equal minus 260, and he used that variable rather than minus 100.
So that I think is the way you would go about changing the look vector for ascending versus descending in the other notebook as well. So you should make sure that when you're changing the thing, you don't just change individual components. It may work out what you did, but it didn't look like it should. Probably one of the components was close and the other one was not so sensitive to it. But you should look at the phi and maybe change it by 180 degrees instead of what you did. It may come up to something close, but so maybe go back to the other notebook and let's see if we can change your phi there by 180 degrees and if it makes a difference. So where is your phi defined here?
It's right here. Phi is I didn't change anything about phi. I think it's one of the output values. It's saved in this.
Oh, it's
file.
saved in there.
Yeah, I didn't do anything about that.
Well, where's the leaf? So the leaf theta S and the leaf phi S, those are read in from some.
Yes.
I see. And that's created in some other notebook further up.
The Qt is just a loaded file that's saved from the previous notebook, which is this.
So in the previous notebook, did you have the phi set properly for your? I have a feeling that none of us have the detailed enough knowledge of these notebooks to easily answer this. We probably should wait till Gareth gets here at 10 and answer this.
Okay, so I'll ask him later. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. Any other questions? We're doing okay. 9 for 10, I think. We've answered 9 out of 10. That's what I mean. Or thereabouts. Well, we don't have any new players and everybody's questions are answered. If we have no other questions, we can take a break and go do other things.
Another raised hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
May I ask question?
Yeah.
Okay. In the tropospheric correction in the strip map app module, yeah, the dispersive and non-dispersive are estimated, right? So is it different from the tropospheric correction, right? Because the non-dispersive also estimated, and I think it's also corrected.
So I don't know if the notebook has changed. I don't think so. But the idea is there is 2 components to the atmosphere in terms of propagation delays. One is related to the ionosphere, one related to the troposphere, as you pointed out. And the key thing is that the ionosphere is the interaction of the electromagnetic wave signal with free electrons. So it's actually proportional to the frequency squared. While for the troposphere, it's interaction between the electromagnetic signal and perceptible relative humidity, temperature, and pressure, and that one is not really correlated with frequency. So a key aspect which you can use is this dispersive separation, dispersive of non-dispersive components, where the ionosphere is frequency correlated and the troposphere is not. So the idea about splitting this into 2 bands of 2 different frequencies and then ratioing these frequencies, that is really to isolate this ionospheric component, which has a frequency dependent part of it. So the notebook itself was not correcting for the tropospheric signal. It was trying to correct only for the ionospheric signal using that approach.
I think his confusion is that there's a due split spectrum and a due dispersive or something like that as keywords for functions. And it seems like that somehow there must be a due non-dispersive as well. So I actually don't remember. I explained yesterday that the difference between the due split spectrum and due dispersive is that the split spectrum will do the correction of the interferogram, but the due dispersive will actually create a layer that is just the ionospheric layer. Is that correct? Do we know? Does anybody here know? So, but the point is that they're both related to the ionospheric correction. There's nothing that has to do with the tropospheric correction.
That's correct.
So Deha, was that your question?
Yeah. So it means even we have already corrected like the ionosphere correction model. So we also need to do in the using maybe external data. Maybe it would be better like that.
Yeah, for the tropo, you have to do either the GECOS correction, model correction, or some sort of time series analysis to reduce the tropo.
Okay, because also Harris study also mentioned about there is a filtering method that also can do
For tropo?
So
yeah,
tropospheric. So there is a couple of methods that you can do for the troposphere. So if you have an individual interferogram, single interferogram, you could try to do topography correlated estimate. I mean, as the propagation delay is correlated with the integration along the traveled path, generally there is a topography correlated component. So you could do this, estimate the relation between phase and topography to do a correction. Now, if you have a volcano or any topography correlated deformation, then you don't have a good means of separating from that. There are approaches to do spatial filtering and look at different wavelength bands. Those are called the multi-scale approaches to kind of separate between that, but generally you make assumptions there. Realistically, the troposphere is a combination of both topography correlated component as well as a turbulent component. So these like a weather model can help you to kind of estimate that. But again, it is a model, so there are some uncertainties there. You can also do spectrometers, etc. But generally, those are if you want to do a correction to an individual interferogram. You could also use the aspect of the time series. So if you have multiple interferograms, you could on top of that actually do spatial temporal filtering. So you could make an assumption that the atmosphere is spatially correlated and temporally uncorrelated. So by doing that filtering in those two domains, you can try to remove that component. Again, you're making assumptions, and it might conflict in some cases with some deformation process. So if you have a very sudden deformation change, then you might get rid of that if that looks spatially correlated. And then generally what you could also do is the combination of all these different things, right? You could try to use a weather model applied to individual interferograms to decrease the noise, and then do the temporal analysis, so the time series analysis, to hammer down the residual noise on top of that.
Okay, yeah, that's very clear. Yeah, thanks.
But ICE does not actually provide a tool for the topo dependent regression, right?
No. So yeah, so we can use so you're talking about the time series poll, or you're talking about doing the corrections?
Just a single interferogram
Yeah.
topo dependent correction.
No, we don't. But on the other hand, it would be pretty straightforward. So you have, if you do the geocoding or you do this in radar coordinates, you have this AGT file, which in the end is just your DM at the different pixel locations. You have your phase value, your unwrapped phase. Really what you do is you would be loading these two layers, and you would just be making a scatter plot and fitting a line through it. The slope of that line, if you multiply that again with the original heights, that would be your correction.
Sure.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying, you'd have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. All good questions. Excellent questions. Okay, well, 3 more minutes.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in a couple hours. Appreciate all the help.
No problem. Thanks, Alex. And thanks, Emre, Simran, Luyan, David, for dialing in. Very helpful. And I guess maybe now we can sign off, and we'll see you at 10.
You.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.